Okay, welcome to Journey to Healing. I'm Tammy.
I'm Lance.
And we are the Journey to Healing team. And we have one of our very special friends with us today, Kevin. He is one of our success stories from our group that has become a brother and just a friend of the family and everything, that walks it, talks it, lives it, breathes it, just like all of us do here. And I want to share a little bit of his story. So Kev, why don't you come on in and tell us a little bit of your backstory. First of all, before we met and before we started, fill us everybody in on where you're at.
Where I am or where I started?
Where you started, let's put it that way.
I knew what you meant. I was in the Navy for 24 years and working on the flight decks, run around, and then you get out of the Navy and you just don't have the same level of activity. And before long, the next thing you know, you're severely overweight and start having health issues. So that's kind of where I started, the easy part about how I started.
I love it. Okay, so when did you notice your health changing?
Well, I probably noticed when I was in my late 40s, early 50s. I started going to college to become a teacher, and it was becoming increasingly difficult to go up and down the stairs, fit in the desks, in the chairs, and it just wasn't a good thing. And then I just learned and adapted on how to live being that big. So once you do that, then I guess you're just kind of waiting for the next bad thing to happen. The blood sugar goes even higher or the blood pressure goes even higher. So you just learn to accommodate.
So what was your wake-up call to change?
So I knew how to not really cheat the blood glucose test or the sugar test, but I knew when I would go to my physicals to fast, even at 300 pounds, and I knew that would help my and I knew that would help my sugar. And I might fast for 24 hours or more to make sure that it was down as low as it could be, and down as low as it can be was always like 130 or 140. And then after about the third time of that, the doctor looked at me and said, "You come back here with blood sugar that high again, I'm going to put you on pre-diabetes medicine." What that really means, I don't know. But what I do know is I was on my way to diabetes. And right after that is when I met you and Lance and made the change.
I love hearing, or I hate hearing that you're pre-diabetic, but now I know that the numbers that we hear when you're talking 120s and 130s, that's not pre-diabetic.
That's way diabetic.
That's diabetic at best. And how sad, though, that our medical system, has give us those little false beliefs of, we can just work on this as pre-diabetes. And it's like, how many of us were walking around diabetic and undiagnosed diabetic and didn't even know it. And I think the cool part of it is now, that we actually watch the data. So we know what your numbers are and we know what you can do with Keto Mojo. So we're blessed on that. So what was this decision? Bring us to the point of, I remember when me and you first met. So tell me what you remember in that and what was your decision to reach out?
So when you're, and by the way, I'm 5'5.5" on a good day. And when you're 300 pounds, you have a lot of balance issues. And one of them is going up and down steps that you're not familiar with. And I came to your house and I remember looking up your steps and noticing that the banister stopped like 3 steps short of the top. And I knew that was going to be an issue. So we get to the top, or I get to the top, and we have our discussion, get me into the keto program, and we get back over to the steps to go down. And I remember apprehensive, and if you're not real sure what apprehensive is, I genuinely felt almost scared to go down. I genuinely was afraid that I was not going to be able to keep my balance long.
I remember the two of us standing at the top of the steps, kind of looking at him. And I remember do you want me to go down in front of you and you can hold on to my shoulder? Do you want me to stay behind you and help hold you? What do you want me to do? And I remember that moment it broke my heart, for you, that it was like, this is reality.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is truth here.
So
Something he learned.
somehow I got down those first 2 or 3 steps and was able to grab a hold of the banister.
And this is a flight of 12 to 13 steps. It's not some 4 or 5 step deal.
That we lived in a split level, so when you walk in the front door, you had to go up the steps to get to the main level of the house where we sat and talked. So it is neat to get to see that. So nice work. Keep going.
And that's when I knew that I had to do something. And then I just knew that I had to continue with the commitment. And I remember making sure you understood that I understood a little bit about keto, like most people do. And it had been relatively successful for me before, but I just didn't know how to do it well. And I remember telling you, especially Tammy, saying, I will do what you tell me to do so I don't have even a minor encounter like that. I mean, what if it becomes a major encounter of some sort? I don't know if I ever told you this story. Before I met you and before I came to your house, I think it was the summer before, I had kneeled down in the grass in my yard. I couldn't get up.
Oh, wow.
I could not get up. So I had to crawl over to the deck to my pool and physically pull myself up to be able to get up off the ground. Wow. So, yeah.
That's definitely that's a wake-up call.
Yeah.
Okay, so your next step going in, I remember you showing up every week or two at my house, and we would give this information to Kevin in bite-sized pieces. He wasn't one that wanted to come to classes. He didn't want to sit in on the groups. He wanted to give me a step, and then he would go implement. And talk to me about that, Kev. What was your thinking in that?
Well, because of the way I learn, while I was in the Navy, I spent several years as an instructor, and I found out how I learned best. And then I become a school teacher at 300 pounds. That was fun.
It's a ruthless.
Yeah, that was hard. That's hard to be on your feet all day at 300 pounds. But anyway, I knew that if I had you sitting right in front of me and giving me direction and guidance, and all I had to do is go and put it into play. And that's genuinely exactly what happened.
Love it. So where did that take you? When you would take a step, what would you do? Just go home and just start doing it? Because I already knew that I could, that I didn't have to eat every meal. I already knew that, but we're Americans, and you get up, you eat breakfast, and you have lunch, and you have dinner, and you have snacks in between, and you stop at the convenience store, and you get a snack, and you get sodas, and we all know that routine.
Yep.
So, but at the same time, I knew that's not how you're supposed to eat, because I'd eaten a keto a little bit before, and I felt so much better. So I just stuck with it. So at every step, I never went backwards. I genuinely do not recall going backwards. I remember always going forward and doing what you had told me or asked me to do.
I love it. And I think that is a big key in it, is just keeping your toes, nose, and knees going in the right direction. And, it doesn't matter how fast you go through it. In fact, sometimes I think people do better when they actually go nice and slow and implement every step and let the brain catch up, because sometimes we get the knowledge, but the habit or the routine hasn't formed yet, or why you're doing it. Sometimes you got to push into a step, but then you got to walk it out, then it's changing it. And it's like something that you said about the mindset of what is so normal, what has become normal with food, of every time you stop at a gas station to get gas, you got to run in and grab a snack. Every time you walk past the fridge, you got to grab a snack. What was a big learning moment in that for you? What did that what changed in your dynamic with that?
Well, I think that early on, I'm trying to recollect. I think early on I realized or knew that the processed foods and prepackaged and that, I'm sure I knew that was the biggest problem with me and probably with most other people. And you can talk more about how the brain reacts to all that kind of stuff, but it's pretty simple. If you're in the routine of eating foods with preservatives and processed, and that's what you continually want. But I knew that if you eat real food, real meat, not processed, and you eat real fats and real food, that it's not going to be anywhere near the problem. And I think I suspected a little bit too that I would be more full more often. But I took all that from you. Whatever you told me to do and what was going on, then I would look for those keys and I would, do those.
And I kind of like the way he did that. He asked for each step in a bite-sized piece that he could take and chew and digest, and don't mean to do the food thing, but it's something that you need to mull over if you're going to change your behavior. I mean, that he did it the right way to make a permanent change, not just a change for a while and then fall backwards and try to do it again. He actually put a strategy together that worked for him in the way he worked, and really succeeded at it.
And I think, Kevin, you being one of my early students coming in to the group, that it actually taught me as a coach how to navigate that, because so much of the information at the beginning is like drinking from a fire hose. And it's just so much information at one time. And it really has taught us the importance of community and joining together every week. Like, you can't just sit down in one conversation or once a month and learn everything you need to learn on this. It's little bite-sized pieces as you can implement and change it. And the other win in it is as your personal chemistry starts to change, now we can push you to that next step. And you were, I don't know if it was that military background in you or what, but you were so diligent on, I got this, I mastered it, now let's move on. And that was your repeat, I think, on
and
that.
You waited for your body to catch up to what process you were doing.
Yeah, and I was fortunate that my body would catch up quicker than most people's. But you hit the nail on the head, Lance, and I'm sure that several times through this conversation, we're going to use the words about the behavior change.
Mm-hmm.
You got to make the behavior change. You have to be willing first to make the behavior change, and then stick with it. And that's the mindset also. Change the mindset.
Yep.
Do you think it changes? This is one of the things that keeps coming up right now in classes, I think. The change of your relationship with food, not just a mindset, but your whole relationship with food. And, Lance and I even had to process kind of with our family and everything too of, when we want to celebrate, it celebrates around food. When we're happy, we celebrate around food. When we're sad, we open up the food. When we need coping skills, instead of finding coping skills, we turn to food. And learning to negotiate all of that and rethink all of that is what started, I think, has this now a lifestyle in our family. And I know you do the same thing in your life, that changing that whole structure on how we relate to food, I think, is huge. How does that affect you?
I think for probably decades. When I eat pasta, who doesn't love pasta, right?
Right.
Right. I'd eat pasta and then I wouldn't feel well for a while. And we all know why. Or I would have the piece of cake and then say, well, that was really good, and eat another piece of cake. And by the way, have ice cream and Hershey's chocolate on top of it. And then not feel well. So you're already obese. You're already, hooked on sugar, and you can't even sate or satisfy yourself with sugar. It just begets more sugar. And once you've learned that sugar isn't important at all, I can easily get satisfied with a cheese omelet and some sausage. Not a problem. Tastes every bit as good to me as carrot cake with butter pecan ice cream and chocolate. Not saying what I used to eat or anything.
Right.
Can you go in and say and share a little bit of how your taste buds and how your desires have changed since we started implementing this? When we quit putting that sweetness on the tongue, tell me what happened to you.
Well, first, you don't really realize it because the transition does kind of take a little while. But once you've made that full transition, and just for the sake of argument, say you've been doing the keto and eating, not eating sugar, not eating sweets or fast food or anything for, say, just 4 months, for example. And then you decide, oh, yeah, I remember that used to taste good, and you would eat some of it. And then you're like, oh, my gosh, how did I enjoy that? There's no way that tastes good. and you all can read about the psychology of that and why they put different things in different foods. And I'm sure most of you and in your audience suspects why they do anyway. But it tastes so much better to eat clean. It's crazy. In fact, I've even gone so far that I am I'm real close to 100% clean eater also. So we might talk about that later on. But right now, I haven't eaten today, but man, was I hungry this morning. And that doesn't happen often. But I was out in the woods taking a walk, and first thing I said to myself is, wow, that's unusual, because it was. At that time in the morning, my stomach was grumbling. But then right after that, I said, well, it's going to be gone in 10 or 15 minutes. I'm in the middle of the woods anyway, so why belabor the point? And guess what? It was gone. I walked about 70 minutes, and I never got winded. I never felt tired. I never felt like I had to stop and gasp for air. I'm a little older, and I've had plenty of health issues, so I've learned how to pace myself. But aside from that, how many people do you know who can walk a dog 60, 70, 75 minutes every day?
You get to walking, that's a long time.
Yeah, it is.
And I think just look how far you've come. Looking back we didn't think you'd make it up and down my steps to you're out.
I didn't even think, and I'll go on the record, I never thought Kevin would do this whole process. I mean, I told Tammy as soon as he left the house, I said, I bet you $100 he is not going to do it. And he proved me wrong, and I am so glad he did.
Yeah.
Okay, so what was the next? Okay, so you're able to walk the dogs now. What are some other lifestyle things that ended up coming in that you never noticed were so hard and so tough before? What are some things that changed? Not just the number on your scale, which we'll get to that, and that's great, but what are some other lifestyle things that you noticed changing, or health issues that began changing before you even realized it?
A lot of the health issues went away relatively quickly, because once you are no longer eating the processed foods and the packaged foods and we talk about it a lot, first thing I do, look at the ingredients. Oh my gosh, there's more than 3. What are these other ones? Oh yeah, they're trying to kill me. And I mean that. That
literally, right?
Once you've gotten rid of that, then everything else really falls into place. And that's part of the behavior change too, is to make sure that you're eating the right types of foods. And then eating itself becomes easier, instead of worrying about when am I going to have breakfast? What am I going to have? Sausage and, stuff like that. And then it got to the point where I make a lot of stuff ahead of time. I'm not a huge fan of that, but if I know it's already ready, then, that's eliminating, any temptations, which I don't have any temptations anymore. But I remember early on that, man, if I make the stuff ahead of time, then I'm going to have less temptations. And then you start learning that your body doesn't really need as much food as you think it does. Yep. And the further you get into it, that's where Tammy and Lance come in, and they're talking about the types of things that can happen with your body when you're doing the fasting, which is all part of this keto program, which is nothing to worry about in the beginning. But once you learn about the fasting and how important food is on a nominal basis instead of a huge basis like we're normally doing, it's crazy how little you eat sometimes. And I know Lance, I'll guarantee you, Lance has scrambled to figure out how much more fat he needs to get into in that day.
Oh, yeah.
Because you think you've eaten enough. And that's all part of the process, too, that you learn from Tammy about your body and the fasting and all that. So it's just crazy, because sometimes I'll look and I'll go, oh, my gosh, I should have had a lot more fat than that. But you know what? Right now I'm fine with it. Or you might say, ruh-roh, I better get more fat. Yeah. It all depends. And that's where you were talking about earlier. You were alluding to it, Lance, about you learn what works for you. You use words like that. And
absolutely.
And you both know I'm always experimenting, doing.
Yeah, you are a scientist. Yes, you are.
N equals 1 on Kevin's experiments. But Kevin, I want to go back to something that you touched on, and that's the processed foods. And I think, how many of us, we got parents that watch, we got, empty nesters like us doing it, and and I know you have a family that you take care of at home, getting to know wipe out the processed foods, even if they're not truly keto yet or don't understand a keto chemistry yet or anything like that. I think just the importance too of sharing how important it is to read labels. And you touched on it. Anything more than 3 ingredients in a label, I'm questioning it, because most of the time it's going to go back out where it came from. What did you find on your chemistry? Now, anybody watching too, I want you to know Kevin is my numbers man. He understands numbers better than anybody. So we'll talk into Keto Mojo and the numbers and his chemistry later. But right now, come in and tell me what those ingredients started telling you of, even though they're not awful, we didn't think so back then. Now, where is your story changed a little bit on what you consider good process and good and just totally against process?
Yeah, that's kind of a tough one, because I am a friend of bacon, and most of our bacon, unfortunately, is processed. So what you learn to do is figure out that pork belly is actually bacon, and you buy pork belly and you get it sliced up, and then you learn to adjust your taste buds to slices of pork belly instead of the bacon, because who doesn't like maple flavored bacon? I mean, my gosh.
Right.
But the processing, and you can tell that just by looking at the label. So like when I get my, in fact, I just got some out before I came down here, actually. I got some of my pork belly out, or my slices of bacon. And I know that when I cook them, I'm going to make sure that I have plenty of butter in it, because I want a little butter flavor, and I'm going to put a little bit of salt on them because I want that salty bacon taste. But I'm putting real food into my mouth, not a processed product. Yep. You just learn to adapt like that. And then I alluded to earlier also a little bit about clean eating. I trust my butcher, but the butcher doesn't know 100% what that cow was eating before they brought it in, or that pig was eating before they brought it in, or whether or not it had antibiotic shots. And I have found a place near me that it's really 100% organic. The guy grows all his hogs right there. He does ship his cows out to another county because they just have more room out there, but it's on an Amish farm, but they're 100% grass fed, and you can taste a significant difference from that than from the butcher. It's crazy. And it's worth the money, but it is, pretty expensive. If you're still feeding a family of 5, you're probably not going to want to do that. But
don't you think you're being able to do the best you can do? And
that's right. Do the best you can.
It doesn't have to be perfect. Just how many people just go to a butcher? Just go support your local butcher. Maybe as best you can do right now, and there's nothing wrong with that. It is still better than the standard American diet and the crap you're going to buy off the shelf in a grocery store that is made by a huge manufacturer.
Yep. And there's still plenty I do get at the butcher. Number one is eggs. Eggs like you can't believe. You've got some lady that, man, those eggs are good.
We are in Ohio, and we are blessed to be in a little farm community, and Kevin lives near us. So it's one of those things. We are so blessed to be able to stop off at the farmer on the way home and grab our eggs and come home with 5-6 fresh out of the chicken coop eggs. And we are so blessed to be in that kind of a community that we have access to all that. So we take advantage of that. And I will encourage all of you out there, support your local farmers, because they're doing a rough job right now for very little income. And so if you have a chance to support them, please do so. Go to your local butchers for one thing, but if you can go straight to your farmer, go there and then see where they would suggest. If they want you to go to a butcher, or just keep the system going, because we're losing more and more small farms, and we want to keep them all going as best we can. And they are so meaningful in this process of, we are so blessed to have access to good meat, access to fresh eggs, access to good milk, all those things that we get, the heavy cream, we can make the homemade butter, we can do all those things in this community. And eggs are cheap and easy. So it's one of those, when you're feeding a family of 5 and a couple dozen eggs for $6 will feed you. Yeah. That's a win.
Absolutely. So, and they're easy.
Right. So I love that, Kev. And you are always, Kevin's one always brings me some chicken feet too. So I can make some good homemade chicken broth or bone broth to keep everybody going. So we are good on that. go back to, I know you do this a lot by yourself at home, but let's talk to the importance of what's our community done for you. Give a little bit of your background on that and how you ended up being one of the leaders in our community.
Yeah. So at home, I'm the person that does the keto, living this style and eating this way. So I'm just doing by example, and anybody that in my family that chooses to change their behavior, unfortunately, no one has yet. But if they choose to change their behavior and live like this, then they'll derive the benefits. I have seen small changes here and there, and they're all for the good. So, some people are paying attention. But if you don't have the that kind of support at home, you can get it in the community, in the Keto to Journey, and with Lance and Tammy and all the people that are doing this together, and share ideas, and then you get people who are cheerleading you on, and that helps.
You get surrounded with people of the right mindset, the same mindset,
right?
Different experiences, but that same common ground that you can bounce things off of. So
kind of one of the things I think, even as adults, though, if we can go back to thinking, I know when my kids were little, I used to always say, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. And it is still so true as grown adults of show me who you surround yourself with, and that will make your trajectory of where you're going so much easier. So being with our like-minded people, and that is why we go live every month, sometimes every week. We go live every week in classes, and all of us used to fear and hate the whole Zoom thing, or nobody wants to sit on a camera and talk to people. And now in today's society, to realize this is what connection looks like anymore. Right. That we are blessed to be able to reach people around the world now and sit face to face with like-minded people and cheer each other on and pull each other through the struggles. And I think too, Kevin, the part that I really cherish about you is you've now taken the lead, and now you are the one sitting there with your hand back saying, come on, I got you. I know where you're at. I know what you're doing. And I just love and applaud that you've come in and help more than a few people along the journey and back into group coaching and stuff like that, so we can work through the chemistry together. And I love that about you, Kevin. Your story is just cool.
It is nice to see too. You'll see Kevin on Facebook. We have two different groups, a couple different social media groups anyway, and one that's also off social media. Our Facebook group, Kevin is in that, and you'll see his comments all the time. He's nothing but positive and upbeat, and he will help people with numbers. I mean, he's actually one of our moderators in there. And then also over on our private group that's off social media, Coffee, Ketones, and Christ, that's another place where we get people that are a little bit shy of social media, and the discussion continues, and we can get more in depth over there, and we can really get more personal in that. So there's a couple different avenues that we have that we try to like to get everybody over to, but Kevin is a leader in that area for sure.
And one thing I will say, when you get over into those groups and you start posting your numbers, and by numbers, we'll talk about that a little bit, but when you start posting your numbers, Kevin is one of those guys that will look at your numbers and say, hey, I know where your numbers are, and I understand where you're at. Been there, done that. And let me show you the t-shirt that I have to pull you out of that. So that is cool. But when we're talking about numbers, let's go over and talk a little bit about Keto Mojo and what Keto Mojo has taught you. Because if anybody doesn't know out there, Keto Mojo is the GPS that I use as your coach to not guess at where your chemistry is. I don't want to guess and push you into something new or a next step without looking at your numbers. And that Keto Mojo is just the tool. When you're one of my coaching clients, your numbers will come up on my patient dashboard, and I can actually see the trajectory of what your graph is doing, of what your numbers in your body chemistry is doing. So I know every day if you're in healing mode or in inflammatory mode. And that is the simplicity of one of the things that I'm able to help you with as your coach. But Kevin, come on in and tell me what Keto Mojo has taught you about yourself and your numbers, knowing how well you understand this chemistry.
Most of what I learned is after having done it for a while and tweaking it, if you will, because I really like to stress that when people are first starting this, do what Tammy asks, and the numbers will take care of themselves.
Good point.
And then later on down the road, when you feel like, okay, you have to feel as though you have mastered it, you do have the discipline, and then you can use those numbers to say, hey, if I increase this by a little bit, then that probably is going to react this way. And then you'll be able to tell. And if it doesn't, then you just go back to where you were and say, okay, now I'm going to try this. And you're not doing anything drastic. You might be eating a little more protein or a little less fat or a different time of day, those types of things, little changes. Because if you make drastic changes and then you see really whacked out, blood sugar numbers and ketone numbers, then you start to get disappointed.
Yeah,
and,
that can distract you from what you're trying to do.
Yeah, funny you say. Yeah, that's a great word, because I've heard me, you, and everybody else say that before. Stop trying to manipulate it. Go back to the basics, make it work, and then try to make it. Try to make a little change or whatever.
That right there is a huge point. I mean, once you learn the basics, you're not going to forget them. That's a step that you will always go back to, and I've told Kevin this multiple times through his journey, because he's done his experiments, and he's like, man, now I don't understand what's going on, because I've tried this and that and this and that, and then he's gotten off the path a little bit. And I said, go back to the basics. They always work. Go straight back. Forget all that stuff you tried to change. Go back to the basics and see what happens. And
it's funny you say that, because it was about 3 or 4 weeks ago. I can't remember exactly what happened. And I was kind of like cruising along with lower ketones, which I was happy with because my blood sugar was a little low. So it wasn't a big deal. And then I got a little tired of that. So
we used to get our dopamine from food. Now we get our dopamine from good numbers.
Yeah. And I think what the big thing was, I was trying to do it with 2 meals a day, which I'm not a 2 meal a day guy to get the good numbers, great numbers, I should say. So I went back to, and you'll hear this more often if you're out there listening, beef, butter, bacon, and eggs.
Yep.
And guess what? Next thing I know, all of the numbers are just lined up perfectly. In fact, so much so that I'm still riding that way. It's 9 full days later. I've been having great numbers.
And that, again, there's another great point right there. He's riding that wave. When you find that you have something that works like that, just be happy with sitting there and waiting till your body catches up and changes. If it's working, stay right there and just let it work, let it churn until you get to the next step. Don't try to prematurely push yourself to somewhere you're not ready to go.
And I think as your coach too, it's one of those things. It's one thing to know the knowledge, because Kevin is so smart. He knows the knowledge, but so many people, they think, I read that lesson. There's people, I'll go down through the course over there and it's like, they've read that lesson.
Check.
They know the information, but knowing the information and applying it are completely two different things. And the other thing I want to touch on is, when you make it the lifestyle, when you go back to that beginning like you did, and we got the foundation laid, and Kevin is one of those people that can go and try this, increases protein, changes fats up, whatever, and see exactly what he does. But I think the win in that is because now you can see your numbers, and we can revert back on that keto mojo and be able to say, hey, this was working really good. We can rinse and repeat. But it doesn't matter what you're dealing with, whether, Kevin, if you want to talk about some of the ailments that you had, your arthritis, it's not just about a number on a scale, it's about cellular health. And when you are building that cellular health, that is when the health starts to shift. And Kevin, can you talk about a few of those ailments that you had that, what did you notice the changes in?
And when I started this, I was, I just turned 62. And I'd spent 20 years of essentially eating just horribly. That didn't include the 40 years before that where I managed to get by, and ballooning up to 300 pounds. So along with that comes the high blood pressure, the high blood sugar, knees that are killing you all the time, and you don't even know because they're just exploded with some kind of processed food / inflammation of some sort. The bottom of your feet hurt all the time because you're so fat that all that weight's coming down on your feet. And I would wear super expensive tennis shoes that were dress shoes with inserts, and that nothing ever helped. Skin tags, I can't even remember everything anymore. I'm just so happy that I'm not on meds, some meds. I still have to take some meds, and that's, I think throughout, had I lived my life differently, I probably could have gotten off all of them. But unfortunately, I spent too long doing different things, so I'm probably going to be on some meds, at least for the interim, a little while longer. So one thing that I know that lifted almost immediately was the bad brain fog, not being able to think clearly, not being able to, shift gears, if you will. And I was just talking to a friend of mine about this the other day, is Lyme disease. I have Lyme disease, and I've had all kinds of different issues with that. And most of those symptoms are gone now. In fact, I can't even remember the last time I had a Lyme disease symptom. I think the jury's still out of whether or not you can be cured from Lyme disease or not. But I can't think of anything else. There's just so many different things that changed my life so dramatically.
And I think, too, across the groups, when we see and listen to the different diagnoses that people come in, some people come in because they have arthritis. Some people are coming in being cancer, they fought cancer and have won that battle. And then they come off the deep end going, holy hell, what now? Let's rebuild it. You got people that come in for brain fog. We got people, of diabetes. We've got people at all different levels. My grandson with his seizures now, it doesn't matter what label is needing you to change some kind of lifestyle or whatever, but the answer keeps coming back down to that same funnel of we still need to do the same thing. And I love what you're saying about the brain fog and things, because, just that glucose in the brain, when we have that brain fog that just hits day after day after day and time after time, it is amazing. And you'll hear me in classes. I always talk about, you could feel it and see it in people's faces when they get their superhero cape on, is when you know that brain fog has changed and things are lifting. So what happened in your brain that you noticed the most in that?
Well, I'm a math and science teacher, but mostly math and reading. And I was able to be better prepared to help the students. And then they actually found a niche for me, which is I do really well on tutoring the kids, making them really genuinely understand math without being afraid of it. There was a principal.
Nice.
A principal in a local school down here, he kind of figured that out, that anytime I did a long-term sub job for him or work with the kids, that the success was pretty good. So that made me feel good. But I remember being able to see things more clearly for that. And by the way, Lance and I were talking this just before, or yesterday, or earlier today, about the my eye appointment.
Yeah, you said something about that.
Yeah, well, the weird thing about that is about a year and a half ago, they said I had Graves' disease, which is, in my case, hyperthermia or hyperthyroidism. I'm sorry, hyperthyroidism. And some of the medicine they give me started me on caused issues with my eyes, the beginning of glaucoma, and something else with the internal mechanism. So fast forward a little over a year, the glaucoma is now gone. The beginnings of the glaucoma is gone, and the inner workings of my eye, whatever that problem was, I can't remember, it's gone. Nice. And by the way, the medicine that they put me on, 6 months after they put me on it, they cut it in half. 6 months after that, they cut it in half again, and I'm fixing to go back soon, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to get off that medicine.
Nice. Good for you, man.
And I think that the vision thing is something that's near and dear to our heart as Lance is working through his eye journey too. But I love hearing, there's so many different ailments that everybody can come into, from your vision to all of that. And it's like, it's still the same process we all have to do. And I don't care if it's my 13-year-old grandson having seizures, to Kevin being overweight and having eye issues and arthritis and all those kind of things, to Lance and his eyes, to me recovering from cancer. We all have to do the same work, and it is making healthy cells. And I think that is the beauty of doing this and learning how Dr. Boz taught it. It's changing at the cellular level and all of that. We've all done that, and then kind of adapted our own little version of what works for each of us. And, I have to say super strict to keep numbers. Kevin can kick numbers in right away. And Lance has one of those chemistries that, he can do the work too, but Lance can carry weight better than the rest of us because he's so tall. But when we look at those numbers across the board, and again, it's those Keto Mojo numbers that tell us, are you in healing mode every day? And again, I think that comes back down to how we win of being able to navigate through this. So Kev, I guess let's talk a little bit about your cancer journey and coming off of, I know you fought cancer at the beginning too, and how it's changed you a little bit.
I did. And this was about 2 years before I ever started the keto journey. I had prostate cancer. And then during the process of looking through and seeing what, tactic and so forth, the number one thing they decided was they cannot operate because I'm too fat.
Oh, wow.
So that was
not operate because I was too fat. So I was relegated to radiation therapy. All the different things about radiation don't matter. You don't have to be a genius to figure out if they're radiating your body, even if they're, focusing on the prostate cancer, it can't be good for you in the long run. It can't be. However, the weird thing also happened was that they found appendix cancer. And the appendix cancer is literally 1 in a million. So
yeah.
You're special, Kev.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm special. So much so that I remember the doctor, she didn't say, Kevin, you're really fat. This is going to be hard. But those were the words I heard. So they had to go through my navel area, and that's where almost all my fat was on my body. So she had to go through my navel to go down there, bag, cut, suture, and all that stuff without damaging the cancerous appendix. Thank goodness for her, Dr. McDonald. I'll never forget her. She pretty much did save my life at that point by not allowing that cancer to go over inside my body.
Nice.
So, but since then, they started doing the PSA tests, which are from the cancer, prostate cancer. And most guys my age, even if they've already had prostate cancer, they're going to have a PSA of 1, 1.5, maybe even 2. Mine are normally 0.2, 0.3, something like that.
Nice.
Yeah, virtually non-existent. So I have almost no chance of the prostate cancer because the cells have regenerated themselves. And by the way, you guys, I think, know, I do have an operation coming up this week. And that's why I've been keeping my blood sugar on purpose, keeping my blood sugar low, my ketones high. So I am ready to get operated on and then to heal faster coming out.
Yep.
And Kevin, I love hearing you say that Kevin is comfortable enough with this process to know, and the same thing when Lance went into surgery, or he's going in for his eyes, we now use these numbers as a tool and a guide and the GPS, but more beautifully is we know Kevin is fat adapted, and now he will go into fasting and he will be able to get everything as prepped and ready as he can before he goes into a surgery. And then the more important thing of that is it's going to help him come out of that surgery and heal and kick back in. And we know how to do this, and that is the beauty of learning how to do it. Whatever life throws you, it's having that chemistry to fall back on and know. And again, Kevin's my numbers man. He's mastered this, and I love it.
Here's somewhat of an irony. So my cardiologist and electrophysiologist are on board with me doing the keto.
Nice.
So they're constantly looking for ways to better help me. And one thing they wanted to do to see if I had sarcoidosis, which is essentially inflammation of my heart. And I looked at them and I said, guys, I don't have inflammation. They're doing that. So the cardiologist said, because I was actually in the hospital at that time for something else, he said, will you fast for as long as you can from now until the time that we do the PET or PET scan while we look for the sarcoidosis? I said, yeah, I'll do that. No problem. It was like 49 hours or 50, whatever it was. So I go down there, get the PET scan, come back up. he comes and sees me, and I went, no inflammation, right? He goes, yeah, no inflammation. Which, further ironically, had I had the inflammation, it would have been an easy answer to help me. Now that I don't have it, it's like, okay, now we have to go back to the drawing board.
Right.
Right.
But how beautiful that
But you've taken a variable out.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I know that whatever else is going on, my body's further healing itself, so.
And I think that's one thing too I want to point out too is we are not anti-medication.
No.
We are not going to your doctor. It is I even look at with the heart stuff that I have, or Kevin too. I know we do our part first. We do our work in it. We do as much as we can possibly do. We watch those numbers the best we can actually do it. Sometimes we're better than other times. We go through seasons of life where, gut punches will keep coming and it's just hard. But when the going gets rough and when shit gets real, that is where we know what to do. And I think just getting that chemistry going in the right direction is just such the win in it. And there really is a benefit of being able to do that.
I always say too, you're putting yourself in your best position to heal or fight whatever you need to fight. And it's not necessarily that you're not going to have a fight. It's, am I preparing myself to fight the best I can?
Yeah.
And when you're all, messed up and inflamed and everything else, you can't fight. Your body can't fight like it needs to.
Yeah. I like how you said that. Really like how you said that.
When you go into a surgery, and more importantly, come out of a surgery and know that your body's doing your part first, then if I need help with a medication, then I feel comfortable. Okay. Not saying I'm never going to need a medication. It is just saying I want to do my part first. I want to see what can my body heal on its own. We have a miraculous body that God has given us with the talent to heal. Let's give it all the tools and the nourishment that it needs to build a new, healthier cell. By what we're eating today is a new, healthier cell for tomorrow. It's the building blocks for tomorrow. And I think the more we can do that, then if your body needs help, absolutely take a medication or a supplement or something to help. But I don't want people to hear me say, let's just do this instead. So many people just want a quick fix or a quick pill or a quick answer. And this isn't a quick fix. By no means is it a quick fix. But I think there's some magic in learning your chemistry and feeding your body the nutrition. And Kevin, you've done it beautifully.
Yep. Good job, brother.
Yeah. It genuinely wasn't hard after I decided I was going to change my behavior. And I became disciplined in the process. That was the hardest part. Change the behavior, become disciplined in the process. Then it literally falls in place. It's crazy. It's genuinely crazy.
Those two factors are huge. They really are.
Okay. One thing before we close on this, I want to throw out, I am blessed to have two good godly men beside me that, are willing to lead by example. And if you two could both maybe share a little bit on maybe a challenge for the men out there of being the leaders. And I just want to say thank you to both of you, because I know I couldn't succeed at this without Lance. I tried for the first year and I failed miserably trying to do it, but how important it was for him to join me on my journey of, at least if you're not going to do it, please don't sabotage me. And then he joining forces with me is what's made, our lifestyle. And now we live this in 4 generations in our family, and we're not always perfect in it. And some of it's at different levels, but being mindful of it. So Kev, could you two talk and share a little bit about being godly leaders in your homes, in your families, and in your communities and in our groups?
Yeah. And I think the number one thing is just to continue being the example. And that, to me, the words being the example is infinitely different than setting the example. You can set the example, but not be the example.
Correct.
And a lot of people miss that. And, at my age, I just wish I could rewind like all of us for a whole bunch of different reasons. But number one, while we're talking about this, is to rewind far enough to with the knowledge we have now, to make sure that our families understood it and lived it. Absolutely. Instead of now trying to correct it. And one thing I like to say often, and I don't like saying it, but it's the truth. My generation and my parents' generation, shame on us for TV dinners, fast food, shame on us.
And then
then
that's where a huge societal shift happened during those times where things got quick, things got easy. It was all about we have to be quicker at it, hurry up. That whole hurry up attitude started back then.
And it just got worse. And so always be the example. Just be the example. I don't stop. I don't care who says what to me. I watch people become more round and sicker and sicker and unable to do things that they used to be able to do. And if you want to continue down that road, all you have to do is look over at my nephew screws around with me a lot about that. I don't always agree with what you do and how you do it, but it works, so keep doing it,
Right?
Or words to that effect. Because he'll just shake his head like, I can't believe you're eating that.
Yeah.
But I don't eat anything out of the ordinary. It's just that it doesn't look the same because I'm not eating what everybody else is eating. That's all.
Everybody, as leaders, we're not perfect either. We have struggles. We deal with stuff that we have to carry as well. So, on the times where we don't lead by example like we should, we have somebody else, in our circle that can say, hey, come on. You're the leader. You can do this, just that backing and other leaders around us. I know plenty of times Kevin has given me encouragement and vice versa. I've encouraged him when he was down. I mean, that's the way we do it. Not necessarily perfectly. I mean, we always say it's not about perfection. It's about direction. Make sure you're headed in that right direction. That road is going to be curvy. Not all of us can go right on the path, stay on the path, and never balk or have any hiccups that come along. But being a leader is knowing that, hey, I might fall, but I'm not going to stay down in that whole aspect. I mean, I know right now we're struggling with our grandson and what he's going through. So we're trying to set the example of what he needs to do by doing it ourselves and trying to take it to the level that he needs to. I mean, even as an adult, as an experienced person in this process, that's hard to attain where he needs to be for his healing. I mean, he's got to have consistent ketones in the 3s and 4s right now to heal where he is at. And if you've done this process to consistently keep your ketones up that high,
it's hard.
That is impressive. I mean, that is a struggle, whether you're a veteran or not. That is a huge task.
One of the things, if I can jump in with Maddox, one of the things as us adults, you guys will always hear me talking about, you're either going to find a way or you're going to find an excuse. Yep. So one way or the other. And that sounds simple in theory. It's like, oh, you're either going to make an excuse, or you're going to find a way to do this. Either make it happen or make an excuse. And we keep looking at it. If I expect Maddox, my 13-year-old grandson, to be able to make this decision and keep ketones and make choices out in the world that will keep his ketones above 3. If I expect him to do it as a 13-year-old kid, us as grown-ass adults, it's just a total different ballgame of quit whining, quit making excuses, quit doing, we've got to do this. All of us. And that, including myself in that conversation, because I struggle with just as much as everybody else. And we all have to work through it. But when it comes to your kids' health or somebody you know and loves health, it's easy to push and say, here's what we need to do. Sometimes some of us won't do it for ourselves, but you tell me it's going to help my grandson and you watch me get focused and right on, and I won't deviate because I'll do it for somebody else. Sometimes it's hard to do it for ourselves, but with the kids. And Kevin, I love, first of all, you got kids around you all day. You're such a leader in our community. You're such a leader for the kids that are around you. And what an honor and a blessing that you get to have. So I guess my next question for you would be, when you look out and you see anybody out there and you're around a lot of people in the community and places that you go, when you see anybody that would be hurting with any of the things that you're hurting with, what would you say?
I have talked to a lot of people because I don't proudly say, but it comes across as that I proudly say that, hey, at one time I was 300 pounds. Trying to get them to get interested on how I no longer am 300 pounds. And then they find out that I've been not 300 pounds for 4 years. They're like, because we've seen it, right? Johnny, Sally, or whomever lose 100 pounds and the next year they have 120 back on.
Right.
And that's what I want them to do. I want to engage them. And there's many people out there that I have talked to that I could see the wheels turning, but it's like everything else. I can't make them change their behavior. All I can do is just keep encouraging them or let them know that they can do it and things like that. So nothing you're asking me to do or ever asked me to do was hard. It was just hard to start it. That was it. Nothing more, nothing less. Once I got it started, everything you asked me to do is easy. Very easy.
It is not always easy. And I love that we're in this tribe together and that we have, first of all, I have these two good men at my side that help kick my butt when I need it kicked and keep us going. But as a family and a tribe over there, I hope anybody watching will join our Healthy Families Begin at Home Facebook group, or our Coffee, Ketones, and Christ is our little private community off of Facebook. If you don't like social media too much, we can get you in over there. But Kevin, I just want to thank you. We love you, and we appreciate what you do in our groups. And anybody, if you see Kevin over there with his numbers, trust his input. He's one that can give you some straight answers that are going to keep you focused and keep you going in the right direction. But Kevin, thank you.
Thank you for leading by example.
Yeah.
Thank you for leading, period. And you set a high bar. You set a high bar for people to attain, right. And you're always the one there to push them up to that bar. So I love that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
We love you, Kev.
All right. Bye.